They haven't complained verbally yet. They're probably laying in bed at like this motherfucker.
First off, let's start off with tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how old you are, and why you named yourself Sacrix, and what you do from day to day.
Sure, alright. My name is Austin. I am 27 years old, but most people know me as Sacrix. The name really doesn't have any particular meaning. I kind of stole it, but I did a very poor job. There used to be a Left 4 Dead YouTuber that I watched a lot of times, and his friend was named Sacrix, but I misread it as Sacrix, so I yoinked his name and just started using it as my own. My day-to-day job, I work as a salesman for Coca-Cola, so I'm the person who goes around and does all the orders for stores. And
No
my
way.
night job is MapleStory.
How many hours do you usually play a day?
Earlier on into working for all of these 250s, I used to do like 8 to 10 hours, but it was
Per
really,
day.
really unhealthy. Yeah, per day. It was really unhealthy for my wrists, so more recently I've been cutting it back. Average playtime per day is between like 4 and 6 hours, but sometimes when I'm streaming I go back up to like 8 or 10 hours. It really depends.
Jeez, and how many hours a day do you work for your actual job?
40 to 50 hours
Okay,
a
so
week.
so you don't sleep. Got it.
I very rarely sleep. I have chronic insomnia. I've had it since I was a kid, so I
Oh,
usually
jeez.
don't sleep very well anyways. So I just make the most of my time by playing games.
I can't imagine getting less than 7 hours of sleep.
Yeah, on a good day, it's around 5 hours.
You're kidding.
No, it's rough.
Oh, jeez. But
I mean, it's just something you get used to over time. Like I've had this since I was a kid, so I never really knew any different. I kind of just adapted around it until I was in like high school. I didn't know that other people weren't just tired for 60% of the day. So I kind of just worked around it.
recently, you've reached 10k Legion levels. Congrats on that crazy achievement. Part of it,
Thank
I'm
you,
guessing,
thank you.
was the insomnia, right?
Oh yeah, it
So
definitely helped.
my first question is, why?
Uh, originally, I didn't really plan to go for 10k. When I moved over to Bara, my expectation when swapping servers was just to play Bara casually, because the 2 PC meta for Reboot was ruining my enjoyment for the server. I'm really kind of just a 1 PC person when it comes to MapleStory, but the reason I started making 250s was primarily at the time, Mesobomb was bugged for Shadower. It was coded improperly, so it was dealing way less damage than it was supposed to. And as well at the time, Mesobomb still required sticky keys to weave efficiently, especially for me at high ping. So instead of sticking to the plan of just maining Shadower, I waited for a Maplehood Watch and then moved everything over to Nightwalker and decided to level that up just to run into the same issue with sticky keys again. And then I moved everything over to Nightlord. And from there, I just kept leveling 250s.
So at what point during that process did you decide to go for it? Hey, 10k Legion sounds great.
It wasn't really until my 6th 250, the Battle Mage. That's
Oh
when I
god.
made my I'm going for 10k video. It's like, ah, heck, I'm 6 characters into this. I still don't have a set in stone main character. This is pretty fun. Let's keep doing it.
Alright, 34 more to go. That sounds really fun.
Dude, when I made the Reddit post for Marksman's 250, that was my 10th one. I was like, holy shit, I'm a quarter of the way there. I'm never gonna make it.
How long did it take for you to get everything to 250?
I started playing in Bara on June 18th of 2018, if I remember right. So from my first level up in Bara to the 10,000th, it was 1,444 days. So just shy of 4 years, with like
Wow.
an average playtime each day of 6 to 8 hours.
Wow. And your wrists and your mental health, all of that has not given up on you yet.
Some people might question the mental health part of that, but as far as my wrists go, I'm pretty good. I got RSIs in both my wrists back in 2018, so I've taken pretty good care of them since then with regular exercises, training on a controller when I can, and just like limiting the amount of sitting in one place while I'm playing.
Are you in the bathtub when you're playing too? Do you have
Oh
a-
heck yeah, dude.
Oh, dude,
If I
that's
could
a
turn
lot.
my monitor to the toilet, I'd be grinding on the toilet.
Were there any times that during this whole grind that you wanted to give up and say, nah, this is too much for me, I just can't do it, I need a break of some sort?
Not really. Leveling is the part of the game that I like the most. There
Really?
were definitely there were definitely classes that weren't fun to level, but I
Uh-huh.
would still finish them. Like part of it is like I never like leaving things half done,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of how bad the class was. I wouldn't stop it until I got it done, so I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have to come back to it in the future because just like that looming threat of having to go back to Dual Blade or Thunderbreaker or Dark Knight would have ruined me. So I never really stopped. I just kept going until I didn't have to play them again.
You're insane. People will hate training. That would be the least fair part of the game, but for you, it's actually the opposite, huh?
Yeah, I'm definitely the primary focus for a Korean MMO. I'm the person who likes the grinding aspect of it.
Wow. So now that you achieved it, any regrets?
Mm. Oh boy, let's bust out the laundry list. Like, not overall, not really. On one
Mm-hmm.
hand, it took a lot of time, effort, and meso to make all these gear sets to fund every 250 with EXP buffs, symbol levels, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I'd likely be like well over Black Mage solo funding if I stuck all that on a single
Oh,
character,
for
but
sure.
that's not really the part of Maple that I enjoy. Being the
Mm-hmm.
strongest person in the room really isn't something I care about, kind of like the antithesis to Matt's outlook on MapleStory for main
Right.
characters.
Right.
The thing I would say I regret, like, is moving to Bera, like, and deciding to do this after moving to Bera. Life would have been so much easier if I stuck it to reboot to go for 10k. Like, putting aside how much I hate 2PC meta,
Uh-huh.
it would be so much nicer. Like, this comment's bound to start some controversy with reboot players, but in reboot, my past 250s would still be playable. They would all have their own symbol sets since catalysts don't exist. They'd all have their own gear since you can't trade it across characters. I'd have saved thousands of dollars in PSOCs and EXP buffs, and I'd actually have enough meso and funds after completing all these 250s to fund a main character if I wanted to. But really, that's mostly all in hindsight. I
Right.
never really planned to go for 10k when I moved to Bera. I came over to play casually, but
Mm-hmm.
the 2PC meta is really the thing that pushed me out of reboot. It makes a toxic game experience in my eyes, and it pushes people to start macroing or worse just to play the game efficiently. Not to mention the fashion story experience in reg servers, dude. It's so much fucking better than in reboot. Like, with how much I put in the fashion story, I'd be living on the streets if I was still in reboot.
Oh, jeez.
Overall, though, I don't regret moving to Bera as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, as the experience of 10k would have been significantly better if I had done it in reboot
Wow.
instead of moving to reg and then starting it.
What mistakes did you make along the way that impeded your progress to 10k Legion? I know there was the infamous Evan note that that video got me cracking up the whole way.
Everyone I'm talking to is like, yeah, Evan's one of the best mobbers ever. I'm like, maybe they're just really strong. No, they just have more than 4 fucking brain cells. Oh my god. Oh, I quit.
Yeah. What mistakes did you make?
Like, there weren't any massive mistakes that impeded my progress. There were things that definitely wasted my time here and there. Of course, there's forgetting to use my boost nodes on Evan for 247 levels. I forgot at least 10 Typhoon potions that just expired in my storage that I
God.
was planning to use over
Oh.
the 4 years playing.
Uh-huh.
I've missed countless Sunday Monster Parks and forgot to buy out my Legion shop before Sunday Reset many, many times, which set me back a lot for training buffs every week, but it's mostly just stuff like that that loses a little bit of time here and there. Nothing too major.
You trained, what, 40 classes now? What classes do you hate training the most, and what classes do you love training the most?
Hate training the most is easy, dude. Thunderbreaker is the single worst designed class in this game. It's unless it gets a total gameplay update in Ignition, it's gonna remain the only class I actively tell people not to play. The amount of spamming required to play that class puts everything else in this game to shame. There's no reprieve from it, especially on Frenzied Spawn. It's such a horrible experience.
What about Blaster? Worse than
Blaster Blaster wasn't too bad. Like, obviously controversy, Blaster mains hate me, but there isn't really that much to Blaster's mobbing. It's gonna be bad regardless of how much you spam, so just limiting the spamming is the ideal way to do it. It's just a slow 250. I wouldn't say it was a bad one. It was just not the blaster community's favorite. As for classes I love training the most classes I enjoyed training. There's really only a handful that I didn't. Everything else is a pretty positive experience in my eyes. Stuff like Evan, Laura, Mech are all good standout characters because they exceeded my expectations constantly with how easy they were to train and how much EXP they got in maps, even despite forgetting my boost nodes for Evan. It's really the classes that were just like standout good mobbers that I enjoyed the most.
Right. In your quest for 10k, did you manage to find a class that you just fell in love with and you finally want to main a class?
Very, very popular question, and it's gonna irritate a lot of people, but not really.
Really?
There's a bunch of classes that I'd like to play more of. Nightwalker is probably like the closest to potentially being a main, but it hinges on what the revamp does in Ignition. Even that, though, is tenuous at best. I haven't really set my sights on a single class. More so, it's just like, there's a handful of things I'd want to play, and if I had to like sit down and force myself to choose one of them, I probably could at this point.
Okay.
But I still got 9 more classes to get to 250, so I'm not ready to choose yet.
What are your next goals after getting your 9 classes to 250?
After getting the remaining classes to 250, unless Nexon pulls a sneaky on us and slips a new class release into Ignition, I'll pretty much be caught up with every class release. Beyond that, picking a main, ideally. Still waiting on the Ignition update to see what they do for the Cygnus characters, but even if nothing strikes my fancy as a permanent main, there's still a lot of classes I want to play, so I'll probably just start slowly working on 11k Legion, maybe even taking a handful of characters to 275 to get the Legends of Legends 2 achievement or something like that.
Wow, you're actually insane. Put the 11k Legion, you just got to 10k.
Dude, they're giving us a 500 level head start with the Legion update. Why not? It's only 500 more levels.
When did you first start creating content for Maple, and what was the motivating factor or factors behind it?
I'm a pretty latecomer when it comes to the MapleStory content creator side of things. Only really started in August of 2019, and the reason behind the training guide for Battle Mage was because the person who rigged the poll in my guild for which class I would 250 next wanted me to make a training guide and showcase where I trained Battle Mage. So that was pretty much the ignition point for me making a training guide, but beyond that, I had an ulterior motive with my videos. The idea was, if I make guides, which are terrible, because I put very little effort into editing these things, it'll incentivize people who actually main their class to make better, more in-depth training guides so that I could use those to learn how to play classes before I got into it. But that didn't work, dude. Over time, I just started adding more and more information to my guides so that they could double as class overviews and a post 200 training guide all in one. Since even now that I've completed 40 out of the 49 classes, there are still classes where the only actual guide for them is mine. So I keep making them now, it's just to ensure that for new players, if they want to learn about a specific class, there's an easy to follow and in-depth general overview of any class they're interested in.
How much do you currently earn from content creation? That's from Twitch with over 7k followers, with YouTube with almost 12k subscribers?
I make between like $500 and $600 each month from YouTube and Twitch combined prior to taxes. It's enough that it pretty much covers the expense needed for me to train all of these 250s in Barra. Initially, the goal was kind of just to make enough to cover the cost of the 250s, you know? The PSOCs to move the gear sets, the EXP cards to actually train efficiently, stuff like that. But over time, it seems like people like the videos and the streams, so I'm pretty much in the positive with the whole experience as far as the money side of things, which is nice. It allows me to upgrade to a business line for my internet, which is still shit, by the way, fuck Spectrum. But it allowed me to make videos and upload them faster and actually stream with more consistency, so I guess it works.
How much money have you spent into this game in your lifetime?
Grand total is somewhere around like 23k. I think of that 23k, about 3,000 to 4,000 was probably spent on Fashion Story while I was playing in Reboot, and only maybe 20% of the remaining was spent on cubes to make my character stronger. The majority of what I spend is on Fashion Story, PSOCs, that type of stuff, EXP buffs. I spend very little on actually improving my characters, just making them look cute.
So NX Story is the meta for you?
Oh hell yeah, Fashion Story is the true end game, dude. Not a single one of my characters has a repeated outfit, repeated hair, or repeated eye. I like the challenge that Fashion Story brings. It's fun.
We all know that you have a very unique and contagious laughter, as we probably heard in this interview already. Did you develop that, or are you naturally born with it? Do you also laugh like that in real life or off mic? So if I were your friend and I was talking to you in your room, do you actually laugh like that too? Because I'm sure that pretty much brings a lot of attention.
Yeah, my laugh is pretty genuine. I've always had the habit of laughing more than most people. I'm generally pretty cheery. I wouldn't say it's something I developed, more so it's just something that evolved over time with me. Like as a kid, I'd get scolded a lot because I'd laugh too loud. But now that I live on my own effectively, I kind of just let it fly. I haven't had any noise complaints yet from neighbors, so I'm gonna stick to it.
So you live by yourself currently?
I live with 2 other roommates.
Okay, and they haven't complained yet?
They haven't complained verbally yet.
Maybe deep down they'd have.
They're probably laying in bed at like this motherfucker.
Okay, well, that's all the questions I have for you for today. Thank you so much for coming on here and just sharing with us all of your experience, your mentality behind 10K Legion, and everything else that we talked about.
Yeah, no problem, dude. I love talking about MapleStory. It's pretty much what I do all day.
So if the viewers want you back, then they can let me know in the comments section below, and maybe we can bring you back for a part 2. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching till the end. Special thanks to M for Murder for being a member and supporting the channel. If you would like to support my work as well, be sure to hit that join button below. Have you ever wondered what it's like to be one of the strongest players in GMS? In this next video, I spoke with Matt, also known as Misusing TV, who has a completely different outlook for MapleStory than Austin. He strives to be one of the strongest players in GMS and has recently reached 100k stats. For those of you who want to follow Austin, I will also be posting his socials below. Talk to you all in the next video.